Hello, everybody. How are you? My name is Carolina Chavez. We are broadcasting live from Miami. Today is Wednesday, May 6, 2020. Today we're going to talk about a few themes. The first is the J. Crew, that J. Crew applied for bankruptcy, filed for bankruptcy. Our second theme is going to be we're going to give an update of how the companies have responded to the pandemic in Bangladesh, paying orders or not paying orders. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the brands that are having some advantage, brands that do sustainable clothing versus the brands that produce for the masses, and also about the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and their Redesign Jeans initiative. So we're going to start with J. Crew. The word bankruptcy comes from, give me 1 second, please. It comes from the word bancarrota in Italian, rota with double T, that means a broken bench, right? It says that that the bankers in long time ago, they worked on benches that were made of wood, and when they didn't pay their bills, the benches were broken. So that's why it's called bancarrota or bankruptcy in English. This is a legend, so it's hard to really come with a true story about this, but it makes sense. So in the ancient Greece, this is way before bankruptcy did not exist, but since then it is registered how debts were taken care of. So in that era, it says that families, for example, if I got in debt, me, my partner, my husband, wife, my kids, even the people that worked for me were taken into some type of slavery until 5 years, for periods of 5 years, until the debt was paid through labor. And many states after that in Greece, no, they applied this same practice, but some of them were not as respectful with the principles, because the principles said that their lives and their limbs were protected. So outside of this first let's say record in ancient Greece, these laws were not protected. So you might lose your life, or you might lose some limb if the debt was not paid in time. It says that the statute of bankrupts of 1542, the year 1542, was the first statute under the English law dealing with bankruptcy or insolvency. Bankruptcy is also documented in East Asia in the times of Genghis Khan. There's an oral law, a code of law that mandated the death penalty for people that became bankrupt 3 times. Okay, so that was a little bit more extreme. And also it is recorded in history that the failure of a nation to meet a bond or a payment was seen in many occasions. For example, the King Philip II of Spain declared 4 state bankruptcies in 1557, 1560, the year 1575, and the year 1596. So it says that although the development of international capital markets was quite limited prior to the year 1800, it was nevertheless cataloged that some defaults made by countries were documented, like France, Portugal, Prussia, Spain, and the early Italian city-states. And also in the edge of Europe, we have Egypt, Russia, and Turkey. So these also are histories of chronic default that are documented. So we're gonna mention the different. This is now we come now to the laws of bankruptcy in the United States. There's different chapters for which to apply to bankruptcy, and it depends on whether you're an individual, whether you're a country, whether you are a company, and they all have different ways of solving the situation. So for individuals, the Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 can be applied depending on their specific situations. Also, municipalities like cities, towns, villages, taxing districts, and school districts may file under the Chapter 9 to reorganize. The Chapter 12 provides debt relief to family farmers and fishermen. Businesses may apply for bankruptcy under the Chapter 7 to liquidate or Chapter 11 to reorganize. And the bankruptcy chapter number 15 applies to involved parties for more than one country. So what is the chapter J. Crew filed for is chapter number 11, which states that they reorganize. They don't close operations, they don't liquidate, they don't disappear as a company, they reorganize their debt. Okay, of course, we're gonna speak about why this is relevant for us that we're speaking about sustainable fashion. So it says that J. Crew owes between $1 billion to 10. The debt is huge. This means that they owe to over 2,500 creditors according to its bankruptcy filing. So there's a couple of things that are relevant here. It means that, among other things, that J. Crew is not going to close their stores, and that the company that leases all of their stores, they're going to reevaluate the leases to see how they can handle it. So this means that probably some of the stores will have to be closed because of the rearrangement of the debt, but the company is still going. They're hoping that when these lockdowns from the pandemic open up, many of the stores are gonna reopen. So, but once again, and a big but over here, the weakest link is the most affected over here, okay? I read the Mostafis Uddin, the managing director of the Denim Expert Limited, and also the founder and CEO of the Bangladesh Denim Expo and Bangladesh Apparel Exchange. He gave a statement on May 1st about why this is so delicate, why this is a situation that is so not convenient for them, explaining that if a company files for bankruptcy, it means they're not doing good business. So why give them a second opportunity by rearranging, by bringing the debt into other terms and doing all these things? And the problem is that the factories that they owe money to, they're not paid usually. And this is very complex, of course. There's governments involved and equity companies, and it is very complex. But what pertains to these factories in Bangladesh is that when a company goes into bankruptcy or rearrangement, remember that I'm sorry, these factories are subcontracted. They're not part of the day-by-day payroll. They don't they're not employees. These factories don't belong to the companies. So in most of the cases, they don't see any of these payments being done to them. And he gave this statement that says, there has to be a better way than this. I understand the issue of bankruptcy, and I appreciate that we have to create a climate where business people are prepared to take risks. But there is a huge difference between genuine entrepreneurialism and risk-taking, and rank opportunism on people playing the system. Okay, so he's not talking about J. Crew right now. I'm guessing he gave this statement because J. Crew filed for bankruptcy. He's talking about other companies. So what happens? They file for bankruptcy, their debt gets rearranged, and then they don't pay for orders that were made. Companies go through their process and then reorder again from these factories in the other side of the world. Or this is not a problem exclusive of Bangladesh or Asia, but these factories, they depend mostly on these huge companies. So the problem for them is that when they go to bankruptcy, they stop paying all these people, and it's lawful, right? And then they get back on their track, they make another order, and it's extremely risky for these factories to take in more orders from companies that were already on a track of bankruptcy, that they were not having good practices business-wise. So on the side of the factories, they don't have much choice, because you would say, well, they can choose to accept orders or to have these clients or not. Well, yes, but because they depend so much. This is Bangladesh specifically. It's a country that 70% of their exports are from the textile industry. So really, most of the income, most of what makes the country go becomes it is the garment industry, right? So it is really not a very big option that they have, to pick and choose what clients they want to work with. We spoke about last week about Walmart. Whatever they want to have Walmart as a client. Of course, Walmart, one of the biggest corporations in the world, of course they are. It's in their best interest to have these companies as clients. So we will see what happens. Hopefully this doesn't affect Bangladesh and all of these workers and factories, but these ways of handling bankruptcy in the United States is in the least beneficial to all of these factories. Another thing I wanted to mention is that J. Crew has a lot of literature on their website about sustainability, about garment workers empowerment, about renewable energy, recycling of water. So I would like to explore a little bit more on this, because, as I said last week also, it is not only mentioning this, they really have to follow through. It's not jumping on the wagon on the marketing that right now is talking about sustainability, but really applying all these principles to what they do. And their supply chain is just as complicated and intrinsic as any other big company, not as Walmart, I want to think, because Walmart is huge, but it is also a very big structure. So we will explore more on that.